We're going to continue talking about Gideon because a few things struck me when I was reading last week from Judges. Just things that were going on in Gideon's life as he was down in the winepress. And if you've got your Bibles with you, I'd like you to first of all open to Colossians chapter 1 and verse 27. Colossians, the first chapter. And verse 27. It says, "To them God has chosen to make known among the Gentiles." Among the Gentiles, that was an important thing for Paul to verify the fact that the God of Israel is now choosing the Gentiles. Paul is the champion of those who forever have felt rejected and neglected. And so he comes along and says that this certain thing has been made known among the Gentiles. The glorious riches of the mystery of God, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. All right, Christ in you, the hope of glory. Last week we talked about the treasure that is in earthen vessels, that God has placed within us all, incredible glory that He has desired from the beginning to bring out of us through creating situations and giving us opportunities wherein the things and the gifts, the glory, the grace, the love, the joy, the peace, the everything that God has placed within us, the Christ in you, the treasure that God has placed within you can come out of you because it's wonderful for you to have that, but it is God's intention for the world to see that. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. He gave His Son because without His Son the world would not be able to see how much God loved the world. And without that which is within us, the Christ in you, being exhibited, being released, then the world will not be able to see the treasures in the storehouse that God has made for these earthen vessels that we walk around in, these tents, this skin that I'm in. Yes. So, having read that, let's go back to Judges and remind ourselves of a little bit of the conversation that was taking place in the Old Testament, Judges chapter 6. And we're going to be reading from verse 11. "The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites." The word Midian means strife. "When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, 'The Lord is with you, mighty warrior.' 'But sir,' Gideon replied, 'if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are all His wonders that our fathers told us about when they said, "Did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?" But now the Lord has abandoned us and put us into the hand of Midian.' And the Lord turned to him and said, 'Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?' 'But Lord,' Gideon asked, How can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family. And the Lord answered, I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites together. All right. And as I was reading through this, leading into my message last week, so there were certain aspects of the conversation that were being driven home to me. The first thing that we notice, as we've looked at already, is that Gideon is a man under pressure. He's in a wine press. A wine press is the place where pressure comes to bring out that which is within the skin of the grape. Without pressure being applied, there is no extraction of the precious liquid that eventually turns into wine and becomes something that is so intoxicating and so effective in its refreshing. And Gideon's in this place. It's a place of intense pressure. There's strife going on all around him. Midian has been ravaging Israel for 7 years. 7 years. I know people that have been under pressure for 7 days and they're not able to handle the pressure that they're under. I know people that come under pressure for 7 minutes and they're not able to handle the pressure. And even 7 seconds. Boy, if you're looking at somebody here right now, here's somebody that doesn't like pressure for 7 seconds. I just say, take it off, turn the tap off. I don't need to have that pressure in my life. I just like to live free. I just like to enjoy my time and enjoy peace and tranquility. And so that tends to place me into situations where I am hiding and fleeing and self-protecting because I don't like the pressures that go on around me. And boy, if there has been a period of time where people have come under more pressure, there probably hasn't been a time since perhaps the last World War where Australia has felt the pressure that we're feeling at this present time. That people find themselves just living in a world where there are pressures all around us, and we're living with it. We're living with it. You can't necessarily see where it's coming from, but you're living with it. It's there. So many things that we don't label and put a finger upon, nevertheless, they're there, and we just feel the pressure. Can't identify it necessarily, but nevertheless, it is there. And we find that we have all kinds of ways of trying to dress ourselves so that we don't appear as though we're under pressure, but nevertheless the pressure is still there. And people find that they can dress sharp. It's a lot easier to dress sharp than it is to feel sharp. A lot easier to look like you've got it all together. Much harder to actually feel as though you've got it all together. A lot easier to give the appearance, to put on the show, to put on the clothes and the perfume and the aftershave and to walk through life as though you've got it all in the palm of your hands. But it's a much different thing how you feel inside. Have you got it all together intellectually? Have you got it all together emotionally? Have you got it all together in your relationships so that you aren't having those things that betray you oozing out of you when you come under pressure, but that instead from you flows the wine of grace and the wine of God. So what we're in now, this world that we're inhabiting, there is a pressure that you can't measure. You can't measure the pressure that is there. It is something that, it is not as though you can take a ruler and measure the diameter measure the distance of this room from one wall to another, and as you step from this room and move outside of that distance, so you are outside of the pressure. It is not as though you can measure it so that you can step outside of it, because it is an insurmountable pressure. It is a ubiquitous pressure. It is all around us, and there is nowhere that you can go to escape it. So Gideon is finding that life is like that for him, and all of Israel is finding that, but Gideon is finding it in particular, and the way that we know that is because he has found himself in a wine press. And so God is telling us something here about the pressure that Gideon is feeling. And when you cannot draw peace and release and joy and that sense of fulfillment from the world around you, there's only one place that you can go to be able to locate what it is that you need, and that is you've got to get it from within you. Oh, they're not wanting to talk to me today, Lord. You've got to get it from somewhere within. And the Word of God says, Jesus said, out of your bellies shall flow rivers of living water. Out of your bellies, out of that which is within. Not your house, not your job, not out of the worship team, not out of the television set, not out of your laptop, not out of your social club, but out of your bellies, out of that which is within. There was nothing special about the rock that followed Jesus around the wilderness, from which they drank water whilst they were in the desert. There was nothing special about that rock. I mean, I know that analogically and allegorically we recognize that as being Christ in the wilderness with them, that Christ is the rock. But that was just a rock. It was just a rock that happened to be following them around wherever they went. They would have remarked about that rock. Didn't we see that rock the last? Maybe we're going around in circles because wherever we go, we seem to be seeing that rock. Nothing so special about a rock, but it was the God that was in the rock who provided the water that Israel drank from. And so there's nothing so special about this earthen vessel. You know, this rock, as Jesus said, out of these rocks I could make children of Abraham. That was John the Baptist, forgive me. Out of these rocks I will make, God can make children of Abraham. So we are, in a way, you could say, we're rocks. We're all rocks. And there's nothing special about a rock, an earthen vessel, but it is Christ in you. And there is something special about the God that is in you. And so when you find yourself under pressure, it is because God wants to access his treasure. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. When you come under pressure, God is accessing your treasure. Yeah. Woman, what is in your house? Oh, nothing much. Nothing, just a little oil and a little flour. Nothing much. Give it to me. And with what she thought was nothing much, Elijah sustained her throughout the drought. And Elijah sustained her throughout the period of famine, sustained the whole household through their tough times and their difficult times with what she considered to be nothing much. Just a little oil, just a little flour. Maybe you need to reconsider how God is going to bless you. Maybe you need to reconsider just what it is that God has got hidden in secret places within your life. Maybe you need to have a look at your life and see the potential blessings that you're walking past every day. Day in, day out, you're walking past your little bit of oil and your little bit of flour, and it doesn't look like you got much at all. But that becomes the source of God's increase and blessing within your life, because God has His blessings in hidden places, in secret places, in places where you wouldn't expect to find them. God has them where you wouldn't expect. You look at Noah. When Noah was being told by God that it was going to rain and that there was going to be a flood. But God didn't tell Noah everything that was going to happen. God didn't tell Noah about the fact that he was going to open up the cisterns of the deep. Open up the cisterns of the deep. That as the rain was coming down, at the same time, God was accessing hidden water. Hidden water. Something that nobody had ever thought of. God was opening up the caverns of the deep and releasing water. And so the flood that comes into your life is not just something that God rains down, but something that He accesses from deep within your life. Hello. Come on. I am preaching better than you are responding. And we need to remember that God has His treasure in places that we have never even considered. That we're waiting for our rich old uncle to die so that we can receive the inheritance, and we're wondering why God is taking so long to bump him off. He has just been outlasting the average man. Why is he still going? Don't you want to bless me, God? And God says, the avenue for your blessing is going to come from secret places, from places that you're not considering. And the way in which I want to bless you, you've been walking past day in, day out. So open your eyes and reconsider what I've already placed in your hands. Boom! Come on! Open your eyes and reconsider what I've already placed in your hands. The problem with the pressure is that we don't get to pick where it comes from. And we don't get to pick when it comes. It's not as though we can say to God, listen, I'd rather not right now. I'd rather you just wait until next Tuesday because I've got a few things I need to get done before Tuesday. So if you could wait until Tuesday before the Midianites arrive, before the strife turns up, the trouble with this world that we live in, the world in which we inhabit, the mystery of it is that you don't get to pick when the pressure comes. It can come at any moment, and it can manifest in any possible way. And what you have to do during that time is realize that the thing that you need to be apprehending, the thing that you need to access, the commodity that you need to take a hold of, is the fact that God never said that you wouldn't have trouble. He just said, I'll be with you in the trouble. Yeah. He didn't say you wouldn't have trouble. He just said, I will be with you. And that is the commodity that God has given to you so that you can make it through your trouble. Amen. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, another thing I saw is that the angel came and sat under an oak tree. You think about 7 years of strife, and this big old oak tree. It's been in the family for years. Probably been there for centuries. And it's still there. Well, they might have come in and taken the grain, and they might have taken the sheep and the cattle and the donkeys and all of those. But this oak tree, it remains. It remains. God talks about strengthening what remains. But my point is that when we look at an oak tree, that you don't see in the acorn what is going to become that oak tree that can endure all the strife and all the good times. And it's still there. And that when you're finding yourself in an enclosed place, in a restricted place, what you need to realize is that the restriction is not all that there is. Because within the confines of the shell of the acorn, there resides the oak tree. And all that is necessary is for the right conditions and enough pressure to come upon the acorn to crack the acorn so that out of it can come a huge and mighty oak tree. And so you find yourself in an enclosed place, in a restricted place. I'm in a tight place. I'm in a tight spot. I'm feeling hemmed in. And God says to you, you might be in a tight spot now, but there are bigger things ahead. And he says to you, don't despise the day of small beginnings, because you might start out feeling like that. But God has placed within you the glory, Christ in you, the hope of all glory. And that which is within you is the thing that God is trying to get out of you. It's something that will endure and be able to be sustained throughout all of the trials and troubles and situations that the world brings upon you. It is something that remains. The next thing is that I saw is that Gideon was in a place of obscurity. He's in a place of obscurity, and he's hiding. But God found him. God will find you in your obscure places. People are afraid of obscurity. People are afraid of not being recognized, or not being loved, or not feeling a part of something or somebody. Afraid of being isolated and obscure. But you look at Jesus. After the age of 12, when Jesus was teaching all of those theologians in the temple a lesson or two, and he was 12 years old. But we don't hear anything of him for the next 18 years. 18 years of obscurity. And you don't hear anything about Jesus. And the funny thing is that he never tells anybody what happened during those times. You never hear one of his stories. You never read about what he did when he would walk into the marketplace. You don't hear of any miracles or signs or wonders or any great teachings, because he's in a place of obscurity. And it's almost as though Jesus is savoring that period of time where he is unrecognized. And for 18 years, he was in obscurity. I know people who are desperate for their name to be out there, desperate for their photos to be on some Instagram page, and desperate for them to have enough people liking them that they can feel as though there's some reason for their being. But Jesus didn't mind being in obscurity for 18 years. And then one day, Jesus happens to be in a crowd of people when John the Baptist is preaching. I mean, imagine that. Jesus is sitting on the back row of a crowd, and John the Baptist has center stage. So even when Jesus is being introduced, he doesn't have front row seats. Even when he's being introduced, he's still part of the crowd in obscurity. Until John the Baptist points his finger at him, and then suddenly, boom! Boom, shakalaka-laka! Boom! Suddenly, instantly, Jesus is catapulted from the back row to the limelight, instantly out of obscurity, instantly into the presence, and for the next 3 years, until he goes to glory, the whole world is watching what he's doing, following him around. The whole world is recording. He's got at least 4 people writing down every single little thing that's going on. And this is the thing, that once God brings you out of obscurity into a place of notoriety, there is no going back. You might end up in infamy, but once you are recognized, once you are known, once people know who you are, there is no going back. And so enjoy your ignominy while you've got it, because that place of being in the limelight brings with it its own kind of pressure. You need to understand this, that at any moment that God chooses, he can switch things around and bring you out of a place where nobody knows you and nobody is talking about you and nobody has mentioned your name, and bring you instantly out of that and into the place where the whole world is watching what you're doing, where everybody is being influenced by you. And God can do that in a moment, in an instant. And so you don't need to be worried about what's going on, all the pressures that you're facing, and the hiddenness of your life, and the isolation and the encapsulation of your life. You don't need to worry about any of that. Young people who are concerned about getting their photos on some Facebook page and having some kind of followership, thinking, when is it going to happen? You might be under great pressure wondering, when is it going to happen for me? When is it going to happen for me? But God can turn things around in a flash, in a moment, just like the lightning strikes, and there it is. Yes. So you might be under pressure. You might feel isolated. You might feel as if nobody recognizes you. You might have the kind of pressure where you feel as though your husband doesn't see you, or where your wife doesn't see you, or where your children won't see you. I mean, truly see you. Or where your parents don't see you. And that's a pressure. And this story is all about people that are feeling like that, because here is Gideon in a situation where he has restrictions and pressures placed upon him in his isolation, in his segregation, in his separation. He has the pressure of bearing with that. And so this story, no matter what pressures you are enduring, whether it is the pressure of being in the limelight, because that certainly has its own kind of pressure. And it is not everything that you might think it is cracked up to be. That certainly has its own pressure. You look at anybody today who is facing scrutiny and pressure, whether they be wealthy, whether they be well known, whether they have the whole world looking upon them when they're going through their troubles, and the extra pressure that comes upon them on account of the fact that they are a celebrity ramps up the pressure that they feel. Yeah. And you've probably all seen A Star Is Born, and so you know the effects of what it feels like when people are watching you as your star descends, and the pressures that you feel as your star is rising. Yeah. So you might be feeling the pressure of loneliness and the pressure of being in an uncertain place, the pressure of being in the spotlight. Whatever pressure you are under, God sees you. That's what this story is telling us. Whatever pressure you might be under, God sees you. Well, thank you, Jesus. Amen. I'm getting nodding heads, but I'm not getting any kind of preach it. If you want me to just preach a nice passive message, then be nice and quiet, and I'll be nice and passive for you. But if you want a message that is going to change your life, then I need to hear a little bit of a, yeah, that's right. Yes, that's what I got to hear. Yeah, that's what we need. Help him, Jesus. Help him to do better. Help him to preach harder. Help him to preach more. Give him something, God. Give him something. Give him something, God. I need more, God. Help that guy out the front to give me something that I'm going to take home with me. Is going to change my life so that I don't leave here the way that I came. There. All right. Another thing I saw. How are we going? Another thing I saw is that Gideon is hiding. Why are you hiding? Why are you hiding? Why are you hiding? Not only is he hiding, but he's hiding something. What are you hiding? Everybody has something that they're hiding. And the easiest way for us to hide whatever it is that we're hiding might be something in our past. It might be some failure in our lives. It might be some weakness that we've got. It might be a sense of shame, sense of guilt. We're all hiding something. And the reason why we're hiding is because that is the easiest way to keep that thing that we're trying to hide hidden. And so we imprison ourselves within a situation wherein God is not able to access the glory of Christ that he has placed within us by hiding ourselves. And it's not because you don't have something that God wants to use. And it's not because that God has not given you treasure, but it's because of that thing that you are afraid that the enemy is going to bring out into the open should you step out of your hiding place. God, help me. Help me to stop being so protective of what you already know about, that is limiting the ability for you to be able to bring out of me the very treasure that you placed into me when I gave my life to Jesus. Because I remember the days when people would come out to the front with their cigarettes and their pornographic magazines and all of their sins for everybody to see, and they would throw them up there on the altar as they were trying in some way to consecrate their lives to Jesus. But now Of course, we don't do that now because we know how to look sharp, and we're afraid that people are going to see that inside we're not actually that sharp at all, that there are incongruities within us. Let me rest your hearts right now. We all fall short of the glory of God. That's why He's placed His glory within us, so that His glory can come out of us. And why these earthen vessels of ours are just like everybody else's. Some of you spend a lot of time working on that earthen vessel. But let God access what is within. Most of you look pretty good today. Of course, those that are insecure are thinking, what's he saying about me? What do you mean, pretty good? All right. I also saw that what he is hiding, that the thing that he is hiding is the thing that the enemy is taking. That he is hiding the last little bit of what he could find of the grain that the enemy has come in to trample underfoot and to take away with them for their own storehouses. And I looked at that and I thought, how fascinating it is that when we see that the enemy is robbing us in some dimension, it could be to do with our sense of well-being. It could be to do with my dignity. It could be to do with my reputation. We see that the enemy is trying to take that away. The very thing that we do is we try to hold on to what the enemy has taken away. And we feel desperate to hold on to the little bit of grain that we can find. And we've been doing this for 7 years. Now, I can understand somebody trying to do that for a year. I can understand somebody trying to hold on to their stuff for a couple of years. But if after 7 years you don't realize that there's something wrong, that the enemy can keep on coming in and taking that which is yours, if you don't realize after 7 years that there's something wrong with that, and I'm not saying that bad things don't happen to good people, because bad things do happen to good people, just through the fact that we're living on an earth that is in a fallen state, that is in a fallen condition. So yes, stuff happens. We all went through 2 years of pandemic and dealing with the effects of that upon us. We all went through that, whether we were good or bad or somewhere in between. Most of us probably somewhere in between. But we all went through that. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about bad things happening to good people and you going around and trying to figure out why is God letting this happen. No, get over it and prosper. But what I'm saying is that when year after year after year, the enemy keeps on coming in and robbing you and taking from you and stealing from you and taking the very things, and you're just clawing and scratching to hold on to that little bit. You got to know that there's something wrong with that. Trying to hold on to that little bit of peace. Trying to hold on to that little bit of the marriage that you've got left. You've got to know that there's something wrong with that. And instead of trying to cling on to what it is that the enemy is robbing you from, if you could just turn to God, and with that energy that you're expending trying to hold on to people that are going to leave you anyway, to money that is flittering through your fingers anyway, because you haven't established good patterns of handling finance, Instead of trying to hang on to that little bit, turn to somebody who can do something about your situation, who can rebuke the devil, who can address you and give you wisdom, who can prosper you, who can turn your life around. So for 7 years they've been raging and ravaging the land. For 7 years, and Gideon is still in the winepress, in a dry place, in a place that should be wet with wine. He's in a dry place, hiding his wheat. You'd think you'd figure it out by now. Oh boy. And so this is something that Gideon has got to figure out. He's got to get his theology right. Can I have just a few more minutes? I know. I'm trying to finish early. Can I just have a few more minutes of your time? Just a couple of more minutes, and I'll deal with Sasha later, because she'll be saying, "Boy, you talked long today," and I'm down there in the children's church. But here we go. God has to do something about Gideon's theology. Listen to Gideon's theology. "Pardon me, Lord, but if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian.'" That's his theology. That is his truth. That's what he is believing. And knowing and flowing in the truth are two different things. The truth that you know is not necessarily the truth that you flow in. Yeah. And so you can know the things that you read about in the Bible, but that doesn't mean that you flow in the things that you read about in the Bible. And the reason why we don't flow in what we know, because Gideon knows what God did, but the reason why we don't flow in what we know is because truth costs something. Truth has a price. It says in Proverbs 23, verse 23, "Buy the truth, and sell it not." And the truth is going to cost you something if you want to flow in it. Yeah. If you just want to know it, that's a different story. It won't cost you so much. But if you want to flow in it, it's going to cost you it's going to make a demand on your life. "Help me, Pastor. Help me, Pastor. Won't you tell me how much it's going to cost me? Help me, Jesus. Help me, Jesus. What is it going to do? What is it going to cost me to follow you?" Well, glad you asked. Sell everything you've got. Sell everything you've got. Give it to the poor, and then come follow me. Oh, yes. Oh, ho, yes. That's right. Sorry to be keeping you up on the front row. This is what you get when you have babies. Got to tell you, it costs to make an investment. Yeah. So, if you want to have a truth worthy of you flowing in, it's going to cost everything that you've got. All your time, all your money, all your resources, everything you've got. This is between you and Jesus, between you and God. And the more you've got, the more difficult it might be. Nevertheless, it costs everything you've got. So I'm talking about the truth here. I'm talking about the real truth, the true truth, the truthy truth, the truth. I'm not just talking about what you think is true. And here's what you need to do with what you think is true. You've got to be able to have the humility to understand that whatever you believe is true, you've got to be willing to give that up for the sake of having the truth. Because I've never known a time where there have been so many people saying, it's my truth. You know, you've got your truth, I got my truth. There is only one truth. There is only one truth. Jesus said, I am the way. What does that mean? It means, come and follow me. The truth. I am the truth. I am the truth. And so the truth is in Christ. And you have to be willing to let go of everything that you've believed is true for the sake of this, that you have not gone this way before. You have not gone this way before. What have you been doing these last 7 years? Well, I've been coming in to this wine press and I've been getting my wheat all prepared so that I can survive. And an angel comes along, and it's 7 years on, and now Gideon is having his truth challenged so that he can go a different way than keeping on repeating what he's been doing for the last 7 years. Yeah. So I'm going to leave it there, though I've got much more to say. Are you willing right now in your heart of hearts to forsake everything so that you can follow the way that God desires to take you in the here and now? The thing that requires of you is humility. It's humility. The humility to be able to say that what I have been holding on to, that has become the reason for my existence up until this present time, is not going to suffice for where God is going to be taking me into the future. And so when Israel came to the edge of the promised land after walking around in the desert for 40 years, and Joshua was about to lead them in, God spoke to Israel and he said, when you go into the promised land, understand you have never been this way before. What does that mean? Well, it means you have got to be willing to forget everything that you thought was right for the sake of being able to follow God into what He has for you. Are you here today willing to do that? To sell everything that you've got and to give up all of your prescribed notions of all of your pet doctrines, all of your pet fancies, all of your ideas about how God works and how He does things for the sake of being able to embrace what God is going to take you into? I'm not saying that you're going to give up the doctrinal truths of the faith. Of course, we're not talking about that. I'm just talking about your pet fancies, your pet ideas that, God is in the dishwasher, making my dishes shine brighter than they've ever shone before, or whatever. People just pull faces at me. I've heard stuff like that. I've heard stuff just like that. So, just close your eyes right now. And if God has been talking to you through this message, you let God do a little bit angel talking to Gideon under the oak tree time. You do a little bit of conversation with God and let God speak to you and talk to you about your notions and your fancies and talk to you about what you've been hiding and where you've been hiding and what you've been running from, and let Him have the opportunity to bring you out of the hiding place and out of the confined space and into the place where that which is within you can flow. That which is within you can be released and revealed Christ in you, the hope of glory. Just let God have a little bit of dealing with you.